A massive winged beast bears down on a crouched figure in the dark, its horns and white bulk filling the sky. Everyone around is falling. No counterattack. No answer. The young man scrambles, hands moving fast, trying to pull a magic circle together before the jaws close in. The beast's mouth opens wide enough to swallow the sky. He tries for offensive magic and hits nothing but dead air. It has him. The realization lands before the impact does. Game over. The battle dissolves into a splash of red on white, then blocky letters on a screen. A young man with dark hair pulls off a VR headset in a quiet office and lets out a long, tired breath. He had been playing a historical simulation for work. It was not fun. He stares at the game box. Deus Machina, real historical simulation. Over 2 million casualties rendered in full detail. He would never have chosen this by preference. Behind him, a colleague snores face down on a desk, having pulled the same brutal all-nighter. Minato wonders what the world is coming to. His colleague stirs awake and calls him out on 3 consecutive all-nighters. Minato admits the historical angle was interesting, but the grotesque realism was something else entirely. 630 years ago, an artificial magic intelligence called Deus Ex Machina went berserk, spawned monsters, and left a scar so deep that dangerous magic, offensive magic included, was banned outright across the world. His colleague vents about wanting to blow the entire office building sky high with offensive magic, then catches himself. The ban extends even to games. Minato agrees in principle, then quietly conjures a magic circle between his palms. A can of coffee materializes out of storage. The ban on destruction apparently left lifestyle magic untouched. Minato looks out at the city, flying transports, glowing towers, a skyline built equally from science and peaceful magic. His world had learned to live without fire and lightning. It was, by any measure, a good life. He tosses the coffee to his colleague, who catches it with a grateful shout. That, Minato reflects, was how he lived. A 27-meter magic transport vehicle, traveling at 300 kilometers per hour, punches through the office window. Glass, debris, and 30 tons of kinetic force arrive without warning. The building folds. The idea that this could happen had never once crossed Minato's mind. From the street below, the transport sits embedded in the building's side like a thrown knife. Smoke rises. Somewhere in the rubble, a crushed coffee can and the Deus Ex Machina game box lie side by side. His colleague screams his name into the wreckage, voice cracking. Minato's eye closes. His last coherent thought is a prayer, that whatever comes next will be kinder than this. He is alive. Minato sits on a forest floor with sunlight filtering through a canopy above him, still wearing his office shirt and tie, completely uninjured. He heard his colleague's voice before losing consciousness, so the colleague must have survived. That is the only thing he can confirm. Everything else is a question. He stands and looks around. Dense trees in every direction. Strange animal calls he cannot place. Minato, the magic efficiency nerd who spent his nights optimizing storage spells, is standing in a forest he has never seen, in a world he cannot identify. No hospital, no injuries, not a scratch. He checks his storage and finds only a notepad and a pen. The word reincarnation surfaces in his mind, and he immediately tries to dismiss it, then stops dismissing it. He reaches into the air and opens his storage interface, rummaging through it with growing unease, until something on the ground catches his eye. A battered rectangular device wedged between rocks. A magic data terminal, old model, capable of pulling information using mana. Minato picks it up with both hands. It is beat up and clearly ancient, but it is a LED. He presses the activation button and the screen lights up with a single word. Functioning. He allows himself a small smile. He asks the terminal where he is. After a pause, it answers in a flat voice, Minia Forest. He has never heard of it. He asks for a map, and the terminal warns that some regions have no data before asking for confirmation. He says yes without hesitation. A holographic map blooms in the air. Hexagonal grids, medieval buildings with water wheels, untouched mountain ranges, and wide blank zones marked no data. Minato looks at it, then lets his gaze drift to the ghost of a modern city in his memory. The two images have nothing in common. He confirms it plainly, a different world. Then he notices a skull and crossbones symbol on the terminal's display and points at it, asking what it means. Before the terminal can answer, something nearby makes a sound that is not a bird. The terminal is showing him monsters, large, horned, reptilian things on a rocky hillside. Minato's world had no monsters. He has no training for this. He stares at the screen and the question forms with uncomfortable clarity. If one of those things appeared right now, what would he actually do? The terminal's advice is, run or fight. Minato stares at that recommendation with the expression of a man who has been handed a fire extinguisher and told good luck. The terminal then offers a demonstration of offensive magic. He considers his options. He says yes. Dozens of glowing magic circles fan out around him, floating at every angle. Minato turns slowly in the center of them, eyes wide, offensive combat circles, every one of them. In a world allergic to good spell work, the terminal had apparently been keeping secrets. He reaches toward one of the circles, tracing its geometry with his fingers. Complex, but not beyond him. Back in his previous world, this level of construction was standard curriculum. The terminal begins to name the spell it is displaying. The word comes out in fragments. Elec, trick. The terminal dies mid-word, grinding and sparking in his hands. Minato stares at the cracked screen. It is broken. He sits down against a rock in the grass, exhausted, and after a moment he does the only thing left to him. He starts drawing a magic circle in the dirt with his finger. He conjures a small water ball using basic lifestyle magic, lets it float above his palm, and drinks it while lying in the grass. That is his current arsenal. Then he remembers the circle that froze on the terminal's screen before it died. It was about as complex as standard school-level equations. He could reconstruct it. He decides to try. Then someone screams for help. A horse-drawn carriage comes crashing through the trees, a light-haired boy on the reins, face white with terror. Minato gets to his feet. He has a bad feeling about this. The carriage thunders past, wheels barely holding the road, the boy screaming for anyone at all. Behind the carriage, the reason for the screaming, a monster the size of a small building, built like a boar crossed with something that should not exist. Horns stacked on horns, red eyes locked forward. It is not slowing down. The beast hits the carriage like a wrecking ball. Wood splinters, the boy goes airborne, and the monster fills the clearing with a roar that shakes the ground. Minato watches from behind a tree. The creature is massive. Its eyes are red. This is not a game. The boy is on the ground, the monster standing over him, and Minato is behind a tree doing the math on whether he can actually help. He has one offensive spell, partially reconstructed from memory, of unknown power. The boy's face is wet with tears. If Minato does nothing, the boy dies. That is the whole calculation. Whatever happens, happens. Minato breaks from cover, sprints across the clearing, and vaults onto the overturned carriage. The monster turns its head. He is standing in the open now, holding a broken terminal and nothing else, staring down a creature that just destroyed a wagon without slowing down. He locks onto the monster's eye. Offensive magic should at least be able to reach that. He begins constructing the circle from memory, hands steady, the geometry assembling itself the way it did in school, except this time the target is real and it is looking at him. The circle expands above him, blazing with light. The monster's reflection shrinks in his pupil as the spell takes shape. He is locked on. Lightning Lance. The name leaves his mouth and two massive energy spears erupt from the circle, crackling with electricity, each one taller than the carriage he is standing on. Minato looks up at them. He did not expect them to be this large. The lances tower over him, segmented and arcing with electricity, and the circle strains under the weight of the mana flowing through it. Minato is sweating. The spells are too heavy to hold for long. He needs to throw them now. He throws them. The monster looks up. That is the last thing it sees before the lightning comes down. The lightning lance hits. The ground cracks open. Light and energy and debris erupt outward in every direction. The wagon tilts from the shockwave. Minato, standing on top of it with one arm raised, watches the monster disappear inside the explosion. The smoke clears. The boar lies in a crater, still and smoldering. A short, round man in a merchant's coat sits on the grass nearby, staring at the impact site with the face of someone who has just watched a small god throw a thunderbolt. He does not move. He does not speak. Minato steps down from the wagon and looks at his own hand. The monster's charred snout is visible in the grass nearby, still smoking. He had not expected offensive magic to feel like that. Jitri, the merchant, finds his voice at last. Jitri laughs and weeps at the same time, tears streaming down his round face as he confirms he is safe. One hit. The circle breaker had taken it down in one hit. Minato watches him and allows himself a quiet moment of relief. Offensive magic is clearly not common here. He is glad the boy is alive. Jitri leaps up and seizes Minato's hands, declaring him a high-rank adventurer and introducing himself as a merchant. Minato gives his name and tries to redirect the conversation. He cannot explain where he actually came from, so he holds up the broken terminal and explains simply that he is lost and has no idea where the nearest town is. J-Tree peers at the terminal and calls it an odd box, asking if the map is inside it. He has never seen a magic data terminal in his life, and he is a merchant who makes his living through commerce. Minato's eye sharpens. The device was already here when he arrived. Someone in this world built it, so why does no one know what it is? Minato stares at the ground, fist clenched, turning the problem over. J-Tree reads the expression, decides not to push, and grabs Minato by the shoulder instead. He announces with full enthusiasm that he will personally escort him to a nearby town. Right now, no further questions asked. J-Tree points down the forest path and explains the situation. The monster Minato killed is a burst boar, worth selling at the Adventurers Guild in town. He will guide Minato there and cover expenses as thanks for saving his life. Minato looks at the wagon and accepts, grateful for a direction. J-Tree rummages through his cargo and pulls out an apple, pressing it into Minato's hands. He muses that no one wanders the forest alone unless they have been training deep in the mountains, and suggests that must be the explanation. He winks. Minato takes the apple and thinks, that is a very convenient excuse. This guy is good people. J-Tree laughs and slaps Minato on the back hard enough to leave a mark, then gets the wagon moving before the sun sets and the monsters come out in numbers. Minato sits in the back among crates of apples, eating his, while J-Tree describes their destination, a town called Minia, home to a flourishing adventurers guild where newcomers gather. J-Tree urges the horse forward and Minato takes a bite of apple, turning the word over in his head. Adventurer. Someone who goes on risky journeys, he chews thoughtfully. Above the wagon, a large white wing crosses the sky, and the forest stretches out in all directions below. Somewhere in the mountains, far from the road, an ancient stone temple sits overgrown and silent. Inside it, a cylindrical device marked with the number 13 and the words Deus Ex Machina sits within a larger machine, bubbling and grinding. Nobody is watching it. By the time they near Minia, Minato has changed into new adventurer's clothing, a dark hooded cloak over a quilted tunic, dark trousers, and boots. He adjusts his belt in a storage room off the wagon, an apple sitting on a nearby crate. He looks like he belongs here, almost. The wagon rolls on through the forest. Something rustles in the bushes alongside the road. The horse's hooves keep their steady rhythm on the dirt. Whatever is in the leaves stays hidden. J-Tree pulls up at a fork in the road to check directions. Minato climbs out to stretch, noting that his lower half has been vibrated into numbness by the wagon's suspension. He peeks around the wagon toward a rustling bush, alert. Something is in there. A small white rabbit-like creature peers out from the leaves, enormous ears and a thin tail, looking harmless and frankly adorable. J-Tree shouts from the wagon before Minato can reach for it. Deadly poison, do not touch. Minato steps back, disappointed. J-Tree checks his map, points straight ahead, and announces that the town is visible from here. Minia sits inside stone walls with battlements and a wide wooden gate, its half-timbered houses packed around a central fountain, people moving through cobbled streets like a town that has been doing this for centuries. The wagon rolls toward it on a dirt road through open grass. J-Tree announces it simply. There it is. Half a day by carriage to reach the nearest town. Minato knows he would not have made it on foot. At the gate, a guard in full plate armor waves them through and assumes Minato is J-Tree's hired escort, which Minato files away as useful. The city he came from had trains and flying vehicles. This world has wagons and stone walls. The gap is not small. Minato is surprised to be called a guard, and privately suspects the new clothes are doing most of the work. J-Tree places a hand on his shoulder and calls him a precious companion, then wraps him in a full hug. He tells Minato that if he ever needs anything, the J-Tree Company's door is open. Minato waves as the wagon pulls away, J-Tree waving back from the rear. He commits the name to memory, J-Tree Company. Then he turns toward the town, narrows his eyes, and decides what comes next. The Adventurers Guild. He has a monster to sell. The guild is a large 3-story stone building with a rabbit emblem above the entrance. Minato stands in front of it looking small. He pushes the door open and steps inside. The interior is full of people who look like they eat boulders for breakfast. A shirtless man with shoulder spikes flexes nearby, and Minato immediately begins sweating. J-Tree had explained the system on the ride over. Adventurers register, take requests, earn money, and beginners start at novice training centers like this one in Minia. It sounded straightforward. The man with the shoulder spikes is not helping. Minato finds the request board and scans it. Minia wolf, Minia bull, Monster subjugation at ranks that assume you already know what you are doing. He keeps looking. The burst boar he killed is not on the board at all, which he takes as a sign that it was not considered a serious threat. He finds a harvesting request for something called mushikware grass and feels immediate relief. He has money from J-Tree, but living expenses are real. He needs to register first, and there are different counters for different things. He heads to registration. The registration counter appears empty. Then a voice comes from below it, followed by the sight of a woman rummaging through drawers on her hands and knees. Minato peers over the counter. She comes up holding something, looks at him, and asks if it is his first time. The receptionist, Sierra, is tall and professionally pleasant. She slides a registration form across the counter. 3 required fields: name, combat style, weapon. Minato stares at it. 3 fields. In his previous world, a new employee form had 47. He fills it out quickly, choosing mage after crossing out swordsman and lancer. He circles mage, decides he does not need a weapon today, and writes his name. Then he stops. He is writing in letters he has never studied, reading a language he has never learned, and it is coming naturally. He clenches a small fist of delight. He suspects reincarnation came with a language package. Sierra asks if he is finished. Sierra takes his hands across the counter to read his mana, then looks at the form. Her eyes go wide. She asks carefully whether he is sure he wants to put mage. He says yes. She asks about a weapon. He has none. She asks if he uses a wand. He does not. Her professional composure evaporates on the 3rd question. Sierra produces a simple wooden wand and explains that holding one increases a spell's stability, that misfires can be dangerous, and that everyone uses them. She offers it to Minato for a test. He looks at it. It looks like a stick. He asks if he can try it. Minato holds the wand, deeply skeptical. He draws a quick magic circle on the counter and taps the wand to it. Something happens immediately. A large orb of light blooms above the guild hall. The wand is vibrating, the magic is active, and Minato is straining under the weight of it. This is a beginner's light spell. He uses this to find the bathroom at night. It should not feel like lifting a car. Sierra claps and calls him a natural for dungeon exploration. Minato thinks, if he used this in a dungeon, he would collapse before the first room. The wand blocks the mana path and slows the spell's activation. That is the problem. The light magic he just cast with it was a first-year elementary school exercise, and it nearly floored him. Sierra keeps clapping. Minato stares at her, and a memory surfaces. A salesman in sunglasses trying to sell him overpriced study materials. He wonders if this is the same play. He hands the wand back. Sierra mentions that light magic is useful in dungeons and asks if he has aptitude in other elements. Minato blinks. Aptitude? Sierra produces a wooden stand holding 6 dark crystal orbs, each marked with an elemental symbol. She explains that touching them will reveal which elements he can use. Minato sweats. He is 90% sure she is about to try to sell him something. She asks him to touch them. 2 orbs light up, light and dark. Sierra leans in close, genuinely excited, explaining that handling both is rare. Minato stands with a blank expression and thinks, something has felt off since he arrived at this counter. In his previous world, every person could use all 6 elements: wind, earth, fire, water, light, dark. That was not special. That was Tuesday. He touches the remaining orbs one by one. All 6 glow. Sierra makes a sound. Sierra slams both hands on the counter and shouts into his face. He can use all the elements. In other words, he is a sage. Minato stands very still. The guild hall around him goes quiet. Sierra explains at high volume that sages are not just rare, they are historic. The last one served as Magic Division commander for the Crown and died 5 years ago. Since then, the kingdom has had 0. Behind Minato, adventurers at nearby tables start paying attention. One man nearly chokes on his drink. Minato recognizes the feeling immediately. It is the same creeping dread he felt every time he demonstrated competence at his old job, right before someone handed him 3 more tasks. A flashback arrives uninvited, coworkers stacking paper on paper on paper, smiling. Being certified as a sage would be a disaster. He needs to fix this test. He announces that the previous results were contaminated by residual light magic, which is not a thing that exists but sounds plausible enough. Sierra looks uncertain. He offers to redo the test. The crowd leans in. Minato identifies the element he can suppress most discreetly: wind. He prepares to release as little mana as possible. Concentrate, concentrate. He taps the orbs with a controlled trickle of mana. 4 light up, 1 stays dark. The crowd deflates audibly. Minato pumps his fist and thinks, no sage certification, no kingdom drafting him into service, no pile of paper on his desk. He got away with it. The adventurers behind him exhale in relief. Not a sage, so the kingdom cannot claim him. That means he is available to recruit. Minato hears the shift in the room before he sees it. Two men are already moving toward him with the focused expressions of people who have decided something. He turns to the receptionist and asks if registration is done. Sierra slides him an F-rank guild card and a beginner adventurer's manual. She spots an open training course and books him into it before he can object. Minato looks at the manual, looks at the card, and accepts that this is happening. He notes, for the record, that she did not ask. Sierra leans in with a smile that is doing too much work and advises him to arrive at the beginner's training course on an empty stomach. Laughter drifts from somewhere nearby. Minato arrives at the training grounds, a high-fenced wooden compound with a flag, and reads the sign. The sounds coming from inside are not encouraging. He pushes the gate open and steps through, turning over what he has already learned. Varying elemental aptitudes. Wands as standard equipment. Magic in this world is built on different assumptions than the magic he grew up with. He is going to need to understand those assumptions before he can do anything useful. A large man with tribal tattoos stands in the center of the training yard holding a spear. Behind him, another trainee is already on the ground. A wooden sword lies nearby. Minato takes in the scene and does not move. The yard is chaos. A woman with a massive hammer charging forward, a man with a mohawk pressing an attack, the tattooed man swinging his wooden sword through three trainees at once. Minato watches from the edge, very aware that he is in a collared shirt. The instructor moves through the trainees like a grading machine. 3 against 1, and the 3 are losing. People are bent over at the fence. Minato watches the instructor dismantle another group and thinks about what Sierra told him. He remembers her smile. He remembers the words, empty stomach. The instructor evaluates each trainee with surgical efficiency. The headband kid has promise but stays too far back. The others are not ready for combat requests at all. Then he turns and shouts directly at Minato about the dangers of underestimating monsters. Minato observes this calmly. From a distance, the training center makes sense. The instructor can assess combat ability and match adventurers to appropriate requests. It is a functional system. The instructor, apparently aware of the rumor about a 5-element mage, calls Minato forward. Minato raises his fists in a boxing stance. The instructor and Minato face each other across the dirt. The instructor bursts out laughing. Mages do not need to fight, he explains. Sierra was teasing. Minato exhales. The instructor asks if he can use offensive magic. Minato says he knows one spell. The instructor calls that about right for a beginner and points him toward a row of 5 wooden targets at the far end of the yard. 5 targets. Minato understands the test. Rapid succession casting. He stands in profile, hands cupped, and begins constructing the magic circle. The word mage, he has learned, carries a specific meaning in this world. He keeps that in mind. The instructor immediately asks where his wand is. Minato ignores the question. He is a beginner who has learned one offensive spell, so he will trade speed for precision. The circle expands around his outstretched hand, crackling with energy. He is locked on. Target 1, gone. Target 2, gone. The instructor and 2 trainees stand with their mouths open, watching the first 2 wooden posts explode into fire and splinters. 2 seconds between shots. Minato holds to that rhythm. Target 3, target 4. A trainee with a sword watches from the side, with the expression of someone reconsidering their career choices. Minato lines up the 5th. 5. The final target takes the hit along with most of the watchtower behind it. Smoke rises. Minato stands in the settling debris, one hand on his head, tired. The 5 targets are now 5 burning stumps. The instructor and his trainees stare in complete silence. The instructor is internally falling apart. Those targets are built to withstand strong magic. They do not catch fire from normal spells. Whatever Minato just used was not normal magic, and the instructor has never seen its like. He looks at the damaged watchtower leaning at an angle. He thinks a name, Magicus. He needs Magicus. A figure with wavy hair and glasses appears at the railing above the yard, then climbs down to introduce himself, Magicus, the guild's magic instructor. He leans in close to Minato, produces a wand and a card, and begins an examination. Minato notes that Magicus is in fact using a wand. Magicus demonstrates what a standard beginner's offensive looks like, a small wispy flame at the tip of his wand. Minato asks the obvious question. Magicus confirms it. That flame cannot be used in direct combat. Mages in this world are support. They create openings for swordsmen and archers. They are not the main event. That explains the looks Minato kept getting when he wrote mage on the form. In a world allergic to good spell work, the title had become synonymous with backup role. Magicus adds the exception. Someone with overwhelming power plays by different rules. He looks at Minato as he says it. Magicus extends his hand, and Minato shakes it. He has been acknowledged as a frontline fighter. Magicus offers to write a letter of recommendation for the kingdom's service. Minato declines, politely but immediately. He has just arrived in a world he knows nothing about. Working for a country right now would be a very fast way to end up buried in obligations he cannot manage. Minato explains that he needs to understand the world before committing to anyone in it. Magicus accepts this. Then Minato asks his real question. Why is a normal mage's offensive magic so weak? The instructor and Magicus both react as if he has said something deeply strange. Magicus explains that top mages can use lightning-class spells, but only in emergencies because they drain mana fast. 3 shots and they are spent. Minato runs the numbers quietly. Based on what he expended in the training yard, he could fire 50 shots before running dry. The terminal's magic was not just powerful, it was efficient. He holds the broken device and feels something close to gratitude. Minato asks for book recommendations on offensive magic. Magicus and the instructor both look at him, like he is asked to study water, after demonstrating he can breathe it. He admits sheepishly that the lightning spell was the first offensive magic he ever learned. He does not know any others. He has astonished them again. He leaves the guild staggering under the weight of a large magic textbook, waving back at the receptionist. She watches him go and thinks, he has already started behaving like an adventurer. The receptionist points him toward a monster-free forest to the west of town for practice. Minato thanks her and heads out. The receptionist clenches her fist in encouragement. In a quiet forest clearing, a stone table sits under the trees. Minato drops the enormous book onto it with a thud, sits down, and opens it with a determined smile. Time to see what this world's magic actually looks like. The Offensive Magic Compendium, 1,000 pages. Magicus had vouched for its accuracy. Minato opens the cover with genuine excitement. He wants to see what offensive magic looks like, in a world that has been building it for centuries without anyone optimizing it. He reads the first spell, then the second. Then he sits back and stares at the page. The magic in this book is not just weak. It is wasteful, bloated, redundant in ways that should not be possible in a published compendium. He is not surprised mages are considered support. He is surprised they can cast anything at all. He pauses. His magic theory comes from a peaceful world where offensive spells were banned and nobody had reason to develop them. Maybe these circles have a purpose he is not seeing. Maybe the complexity is intentional. He decides to test it before judging. He pulls out his notepad and pen and activates his storage magic. He copies a spell from the book into his notebook using a mana transfer technique, then activates it exactly as written. A small, weak flame appears. It is technically fire magic. It would not scare a candle. He visualizes the magic circle as a tangle of industrial pipes, most of them going nowhere. The same subcircles repeated for no reason. Redundant symbols stacked on top of each other. The lightning spell in the terminal was clean. This is not clean. He picks up his pen and starts crossing things out. He erases 10% of the lines and tests the result. The fire that comes out is not small. It roars. Minato watches the blast roll across the clearing and grins with every tooth he has. He knew it. Strip the excess and the power increases. The inefficient magic circles were the problem all along. He keeps going. All the lines in the book's circles were drawn at uniform thickness, which wastes mana on control circuits that do not need it. He makes the control lines thin and the generation lines thick. He replaces redundant symbols. He fine-tunes the geometry for maximum flow. A few more designs to test. He is improving spells he learned in elementary school using knowledge from elementary school, and it is working. The one-man spell upgrade sits in a forest clearing in another world, realizing he has a path forward, not just to survive here, to excel. He holds up his completed notebook. Minato's secret notebook, personal offensive magic optimization notes. In the trees nearby, a girl with a long ponytail and a sword on her hip has been watching him from behind a trunk for a while. She peeks out as he prepares to test the new designs. He taps the notebook and the magic circle activates. It is light, genuinely, surprisingly light. The mana flows into it like water finding a channel, no resistance, no drag. The optimized circle pulls from him naturally. He did not expect it to feel like this. The circle erupts. A massive, swirling force tears through the clearing, and Minato stands at the center of it, watching the energy move. He can feel his understanding sharpening in real time. This is what magic is supposed to feel like. Waltz of flames. The name leaves his mouth and a vortex of fire fills the sky, spiraling upward in a column that dwarfs the tree line. Minato stands with his arm extended, watching it burn. He exhales slowly. It was a success. Then he looks down. The grass around the stone table is on fire. The table itself is about 30 seconds from joining it. He stares at the ring of flames surrounding him and his book and says, with remarkable calm, that this is not ideal. He raises a hand and calls extinguishing magic, blessed rain. A localized downpour opens up above the clearing. The fire goes out. The girl with the ponytail, who had been watching from the trees, is now standing in the rain, completely soaked, water dripping from her chin. She stands there, dripping, and says one word, incredible. Back at the stone table, already dry and already moving on, Minato announces that there are more spells to improve. He does not appear to have noticed he soaked a bystander. Morning. Minato sits up in an inn room, bleary-eyed, and looks out the window at a street full of adventurers, a giant chicken-like creature, and something serpentine moving through the market. He yawns until his jaw cracks. He stayed up all night. He has no regrets. The innkeeper, a bald man with a mustache and an apron, sets down a plate and observes that Minato looks exhausted. Minato explains he spent the night improving the magic in the offensive magic compendium. The innkeeper stares at him. He says Minato says some funny stuff. Then he tells him to get to the guild before the good requests are gone. Minato chews his breakfast and considers. Jatree's money covers current expenses, but he wants to test the improved spells in a real context. He looks at his notebook, looks at the guild building through the window, and decides. Time to see what this world's adventurer economy looks like. The Minia Guild in the morning is a contact sport. The request board is buried under a mob of adventurers all reaching for papers at once. A blonde woman in a fancy outfit spots Minato, calls him late, and shoves him directly into the crowd before he can respond. He disappears into the press of bodies. He surfaces with a request paper clutched in his hand. He reads it. Minimum 300,000 siegs, easy job, just cast some offensive magic. He does the conversion in his head. A month's wages for a normal adult, and it lets him test his improved spells without killing anything. He takes it. A rogue-type adventurer with a pointed hat and a sharp grin informs him that Minia mornings start with the request scramble, and did he not know that? He laughs and walks away. Minato, still compressed between several large bodies, is not laughing. The blonde woman watches the chaos from behind the counter with serene satisfaction. Minato presents the request at the counter, crumpled and slightly damp from the scramble. The receptionist leans in to read it. Her eyes go very still. She explains that it is technically the safest F-rank request available, but adds a but. The but. Most of the magic jewels in the ancient ruins are already gone, so success depends almost entirely on luck. She turns to the quest board looking for alternatives, finds several, and eliminates each one because his rank is too low. She turns back and shouts his name. Rank up, she tells him, with the energy of someone who has been waiting to say this. Minato recalls the manual's ranking requirements, demonstrated combat contributions, plus a passing grade on an examiner's test. He finds both of these annoying. He decides he just wants to test his magic today. He takes the jewel request. The receptionist stamps it taken with the expression of someone who has already predicted how this will go. Minato heads for the ruins. The ancient ruins spread across a valley below him. Stone arches, crumbling walls, trees growing through the gaps, mountains beyond. Minato stands on a ledge and maps his approach. The closest ruins will already be picked over. He needs to go further in. He also needs lunch first. His stomach has opinions. The innkeeper had packed sandwiches. Minato sits on a rock under a tree, takes a bite, and discovers that simple food in a new world can be genuinely good. Then something sniffs the back of his neck. The growl that follows is not his stomach. A girl with a long ponytail and large eyes is leaning over his shoulder, sniffing him, eyes closed. Her stomach growls again, louder. Minato holds out a sandwich without a word. Her eyes open and light up. She takes it and eats with the focused intensity of a small animal that has not eaten in 2 days. Minato watches her and thinks, yep, exactly like a small animal. She points at him while chewing and announces that he is the person who used the massive fire spell yesterday. She was in the forest. She saw everything. Minato gives her another sandwich and processes this while she eats. She saw the test shots. She probably also got rained on. She thanks him, stands up, and points toward the ruins. She tells him that something exciting will be behind the triangle in the ruins. She says it with the casual certainty of someone who has been there. She also says he will probably be fine. She says she can smell treasure in that direction, and monsters, but probably fine. Then she gasps, realizes she is late for an exam, and sprints away at a speed that leaves a dust trail. She shouts her name back over her shoulder. Amy. Minato calls his back. She is already gone. She is genuinely that fast. Minato watches the dust settle and hopes she passes her exam. Then he turns toward the trees and moves into the forest, quiet and careful, following the path toward the ruins. The ruins are not what he expected. These are not medieval stone blocks. These are flat slabs, uniform pillars, poured construction. Minato presses his palm to a wall and feels it. Reinforced concrete. In a world of brick buildings and horse-drawn carts, someone built this with materials centuries ahead of the current technology. The town of Minia is brick. These ruins are concrete. The gap in building materials tells him the civilization that built this place was more advanced than the one that exists now. He spots a large pyramid structure in the courtyard and remembers Amy's words. The triangle. He walks toward it. At the base of the pyramid, a square panel with a circular indentation and radiating lines. The instructions are written clearly. Mana opens the door. Minato places his hand on the circle and flows mana into it. The panel slides aside. Someone has been here before, the mechanism says so. He goes down. A jagged mechanical blade comes at him from the dark. Minato throws himself backward, and the blade strikes the ground where he was standing. He gets to his feet and holds out his hand, mana crackling between his fingers and the thing on the floor. The blade falls still. Then it sprouts thin articulated legs and begins twitching. Minato stares at it. A knife with legs. A magic machine, not a monster. He picks it up by the body and watches the legs dangle. It looks like a construct, not a creature. He pockets it for later study. He still has not found any magic jewels, and he still has not tested his improved spells. He goes deeper. A long corridor, stone stairs descending into darkness. Minato raises one finger and lets a small light orb float ahead of him. He follows it down. The air below is stale and undisturbed. The light orb drifts ahead, and Minato follows its glow through the corridor, footsteps echoing on old stone. Thick spiderwebs fill the hall. A large spider sits on one of them and does not move as he passes. The dust on the floor is undisturbed. This place has not been opened in a long time. He might actually find something here. He keeps his focus. A massive double door at the end of the corridor, circular handles, geometric patterns carved into the surface. The lock is solid and shows no signs of having been opened. Minato examines it, then knocks. The door does not answer. If this door connects to unexplored areas, what is behind it could be significant. Minato pulls out his notebook. He smiles. Now is the time to test a few improved spells. Improved flame cannon. The fire roars down the corridor, and the door comes off its hinges, falling inward into the dark. The lock lies broken on the floor. Minato stands in the smoke and looks at what he has opened. The room is full of them. Dozens of mechanical creatures, each one built around a long curved blade, perched on the walls, the ceiling, the floor, all of them turning toward the light. Minato stands in the center with small magic circles already forming around his hands. He fires water cannon, wind cannon, fire cannon in rapid succession, moving between attacks. The machines keep coming. He dodges a blade that would have taken his arm off and thinks with genuine frustration. This was listed as a beginner's request. The improved spells are not enough. There are too many of them, and no single hit is decisive. The blades snap around him in a constant rhythm, and one clean strike will end this. He forces himself to stop moving and think. Lightning. In his previous world's history, when magic machines ran wild, lightning magic was used to stop them. He had already proven it worked on the one outside. He grabs the memory of that first lightning lance and starts moving toward the center of the room. One lance is not enough for 100 machines, but several smaller improved lances fired in rapid succession might create a chain reaction. He spreads his arms and lets multiple circles open at once, each one feeding a lance. He hopes this works. The volley fires. Lightning lances streak across the room in every direction, and the machines explode in cascading bursts of electricity, one chain reaction triggering the next, light filling every corner of the chamber. Silence. The room is full of broken blades and still limbs. Minato stands in the middle of it. Nothing moves. He checks his mana and considers. The chain reaction through the lightning probably stopped them all at once. He walks through the wreckage toward the far doorway, tired and cautious. He had gone through all that trouble, hoping for something worthwhile on the other side. At the guild counter, Minato drops 240 blue magic jewels onto the surface with a heavy thud. The receptionist stares, then she shouts, "Blue jewels are the rarest and highest quality variant, and the previous record for a single haul was barely over 100. At 30,000 siegs per jewel, the math is staggering." Minato does the conversion in his head and says, mildly, that he guesses Shiz cannot buy that many anyway. The receptionist informs him that with this single request, he has already made enough contributions to rank up. She leans across the counter with clenched fists and announces that all he needs now is a subjugation request and an exam. She places a form on the counter. Minato snaps his fingers and says he almost forgot something. He asks people to clear the area. A glow appears on the floor. Then a burst boar carcass the size of a small vehicle slams down in the middle of the guild hall. Minato stands behind it with one arm raised, looking calm. The receptionist is knocked back by the air displacement. Minato explains, with a sweat drop, that his storage capacity is a little larger than average. His previous world's capacity was 5 tons. This world's standard is 30 kilograms. Guild members crowd around the boar. The receptionist holds up the subjugation form with a finished stamp and the expression of someone who has been professionally defeated. All that remains is the exam. Minato begins to say he does not actually want to rank up, and Magicus appears from across the hall, makes a large O shape with his arms, and announces that Minato passes. He does not have time to write an exam he already knows the outcome of. The receptionist announces Minato as the fastest promo in the history of Minya Guild. She does not look entirely happy about it. E rank. Confetti cheering, 3 adventurers immediately invading his personal space to congratulate him and pitch monster hunts. He ranked up by accident. He is aware of this. The crowd pushes him toward the request board. Every adventurer in the hall watches Minato approach the board with held breath. He points at a paper. He holds it up. It is a no-rank herb collection request for Mushikware grass, described as an easy job anyone can do. The hall erupts in disbelief. Minato shrugs. He arrives at the special training grounds, a stone fortress on a hill with corner towers and an iron gate. He stands before the entrance and reads the sign. He thinks about the request in his hand. He thinks about what it might suit. A different request catches his eye. The Pursuers of Knowledge, a famous adventurer duo, are recruiting someone who can use offensive magic. Minimum 300,000 siegs. A test is required before the actual job is revealed. 3 adventurers at a nearby table react when they see him reading it. The pursuers are legendary, rarely post requests, and are apparently surrounded by unusual circumstances. An adventurer duo, a swordsman and a mage, specialists in ancient ruins. Minato imagines 2 grizzled veterans with goggles and pickaxes. He reads the fine print. He can still decline after the test. He considers the magic machines he found in the ruins, the reinforced concrete, the terminal that nobody recognized. He wants to know more. He decides. Talking to them costs nothing. He walks to the large stone gate and pushes it open. There is no guarantee he passes their test, but he can at least find out what they know about the ruins and the machines inside them. The gate creaks. A dark stone corridor stretches ahead, light coming in behind him. He moves forward. His eyes adjust. Something is at the far end. 2 girls, one blonde with a sword and a ponytail, one hooded with a large wooden staff. They are discussing the next applicant. A mage who can use 5 elements, which the blonde finds exciting, and the hooded one considers unlikely given his rank. Minato stands in the corridor and stares. These are the Pursuers of Knowledge. The hooded girl looks up. Her eyes go wide. She raises one finger and points it directly at Minato. The word that comes out of her mouth is not a greeting. It is monster.